Hi, I'm Scav, and I'm an architecture critic. In this video, I'm going to break down the architecture of Grand Theft Auto V into two parts, execution and theory. The first part will give you an overview of the actual buildings inside the game, compare and contrast them to the real Los Angeles, and look at how well the game overall contains realistic architectural elements. Do you want to find out if you can actually build any of the houses? Watch this segment. The second part will present a theory about what it means to play this game. We will touch on aesthetic philosophy, explore the human obsession with making models, and speculate on how this game may change the way you see the world. For me to do this video is to come to a unique crossroads in what it means to be a critic. For a while in architecture and in art, the personal relationship with the artist or architect and what the project meant to them became an important aspect of criticism. To reveal very personal details about the artist or architect through their work as a form of criticism was really in fashion for a time. And when I say that Grand Theft Auto V puts me in that position, it isn't so much that I am familiar with the game's creator or have a close relationship with the client. I do have a very personal relationship with the subject of the game itself, a place that was once my home and a place I fell in love with. It is very personal of me to review a game that so beautifully reconstructs the city of Los Angeles. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to follow me down Sunset Boulevard. And as always, welcome to the Extra Office. Let's start the execution segment where the game begins, Franklin's house. And as the neighborhood is an extension of any home, as such, it's the first thing we need to sample when considering execution. It's like the look and smell of a fine wine. It's not the taste, but it's crucial to our experience of it. So this house and its neighbors are called post-war bungalows because of how many houses, just like this one, were built after World War II. The baby boomer generation solidified itself after the GI Bill that allowed so many Americans to purchase a home. And it would be inappropriate of me not to mention that even though the GI Bill was technically available to all veterans, legal discrimination in the lending process ensured that Black Americans were not able to use those benefits. For example, in the New York and northern New Jersey suburbs, 67,000 mortgages were insured by the GI Bill, but fewer than 100 were taken out by non-whites. I'll put further information linked in the description. This is significant because look at the neighborhood this house is in. The post-war bungalows that would have been in quaint suburbs would not have been available to Franklin's grandfather and grandmother, who spoiled her grandson by leaving this house to him in her will. Now, the neighborhood itself in this game is reflective of the dilapidation that happened in the city while the GI Bill allowed so almost exclusively white families to move further out. Now let's take a closer look inside the home. I love this house for so many reasons. It feels really wholesome inside. Franklin is a grown man living with his Aunt Denise, who's really funny. I love that I feel like a big kid in this house. The character really connects with us millennials who may have lived with adults in our adulthood. Maybe we were supposed to see this character as a warning sign of what playing video games can do to... wrong segment. Now, in terms of 3D modeling execution, Franklin's house is really well modeled. The floor plan looks great and realistic. There are... Let me see if we can pull it up here. Great. There are 2 bedrooms here and here, a bathroom in between, a kitchen in the back, with here is a dining room and a sunroom or great room in down there, and they're all connected by this pretty generous hallway. It's quite a nice layout and floor plan that make a lot of sense. Even though this looks like a very typical suburban home, if you look at the materials and the weathering, you can tell it's a bit older than the cookie-cutter suburban houses of today. This house itself went through some changes in its history, And one that I find most notable is the addition of this phone line. If you see the phone here, if you look at the wire, it follows all the way around the top, crosses the hallway over, follows the trim. In this very 1990s sort of phone wire setup, really, really great detail of this house and 3D model. One of the details that I also really love is the way that the floor sounds underneath me and the way that the different materials sound. Let me give you a quick sample of that.
Ain't that the truth?
Just as soon as my Aunt Denise is done on the phone here. Now listen carefully. Now, there are actually two major execution issues in this house. For one, it's the scale of the light switches versus the outlets. Now, you see them on the wall here, and one thing you should note is that they are 2-gang outlet faceplates and a 2-gang toggle plate, and they should both be about 5 inches square, and the light switch and the outlet are not the same size if you once you look at them, and that kind of follows throughout the entire house. The light switches are tiny and the outlet plugs are humongous down there. That's a mistake that I kind of can't unsee. The other execution issue in this house is one that I find deeply intriguing. It's actually the second chimney and fireplace. The what, you might have asked? Yeah, that's right. You can see the first fireplace here that's been changed into a heater and boarded up. But there's another fireplace, or another chimney. And the fireplace has been boarded up. And you see the one, there's a Jeez, I'm sorry. I'm trying to walk through here. You could see the chimney over there for the fireplace that was boarded up. But you can see there's another chimney right here on the outside of the home. And so there should be a fireplace right where that leads, which is right in Franklin's bedroom. But there is no evidence of such fireplace to be found. So this was either a mistake by the game designers when you're designing the outside and you're designing the inside and you forget to match them up, or I start to imagine a different scenario, one in which this room used to be a study when the house was purchased, but then it became a child's room. Then over time, the fireplace was too expensive to run, so it was closed and boarded up, much like the other one in the house. But the city around me was growing and attracting so much wealth that I couldn't even make this one anything. I just boarded right over it. And then the chimney and this house and the way it is suddenly makes so much sense for this character, Franklin, who's only looking to crime for a way out for his family. Now, maybe I am making a mountain out of a molehill, but I think this chimney here is a really powerful moment in the architecture of this game, right in my bedroom. And I think that when you consider it, it starts to reveal a little bit more about the character, about this place, and about the city in general. Maybe about yourself. And anyway, if you wanted, you could definitely build Franklin's house. So staying on theme here, we're going to take a look at Michael's house next. Michael's house is actually nestled beautifully in the California hills. And it's a great example of, yeah, it's right up against this retaining wall here. Here it is on the left. That's the site. Now you can see with the site is that it exemplifies, this street exemplifies really beautifully in this neighborhood, really beautifully the east-west boulevards of Los Angeles. Most notably is Wilshire Boulevard. And if you're noticing, see how close we are to these high-rise towers? These streets in LA are designed to, I'll show you an example. These east-west streets in LA are designed to be like live work, so you could potentially live in the area and actually walk to work. In any case, that was the plan, but LA outgrew it. This is the house. And I'm going to save you a little bit of time here and just tell you that you definitely should not build Michael's house. There's some serious shenanigans going on in here. Let's get to it. What the? Hang on. What?
You want to know where I am? You can check your credit card statement.
Hey, I'm feeling lucky. I'll check the hospital. Daddy's home.
Oh boy. What are we playing? Rip-off DDR? No, that sound is gonna get into my recording and I can't. Alright, let's pull the plug on that. Thank you. Alright, let's talk about this house. This multi-level dwelling exemplifies nouveau riche McMansion styling and new money in the United States. A McMansion is a disparaging term for overly large and opulent mass-produced homes lacking architecturally sound organization. The house is a mishmash of something invoking the Mediterranean, something invoking Rome, something invoking Morocco, and something eventually invoking Los Angeles. But ultimately, it's just a big pile of sticks assembled into some rooms with some crap from a catalog tacked onto it. Now, this house belongs to Michael DeSanta. Having moved here from the East Coast, this family exemplifies the behaviors and attitudes we see new money Angelinos in a lot of media. The interior of the home is frenetic. While each room connects to another in a kind of reasonable way here, the organization of the house on the site itself is confusing and strange. Remember when we pulled into it, it was like, what's going on here? And what I mean is, the house was designed by the game designers to look correct from the outside. And once you get inside as a player, the surrounding views of LA don't really matter as much because we are immersed on the interior. But in reality, this house would be an absolute sin to build because there aren't many nice views out of this home to this beautiful site. Except from like maybe here in the bathroom, just like an immensely beautiful like toilet room. Even though there's something really strange about the toilet right into this cabinetry here. But that aside, the view's good, but why is this window so skinny? It's very tall, but it's such a skinny window. It's also the only bathroom on this floor, and I don't see a shower. That being said, though, there's something exactly correct or poetic about this place, because this is why McMansions are so easily picked on. They put all the effort into the looks, but the poor organization and little engagement with the site or the local climate. And the windows in any McMansion never really look at anything special, if only by accident. And they aren't designed to support important architecture things like good cross ventilation. And these are the kinds of details you could probably look up on your own, but as rich a look as this house gives, the way this thing sits against the retaining wall is just unbelievably bad. And the pool and tennis area are, decent, but decent by themselves, I'll say, but they're really disconnected from the home due to this steep grade change, which isn't really well managed. And there's one thing that's like extremely illegal, which is here. Even very rich, powerful, wealthy people in LA, which they come a dime a dozen out there, you could never pull something like this off. A cantilever over a street, that's like very, very difficult. But hey, here we are. Probably one thing that might exemplify the inside-outside disparity in this house is the fact that there are windows on the outside of this 3D model that aren't actually in the home. These two, for example, and this one over here, they don't actually exist in the house. The floor plan of the house? These, yeah, this is just nothing. This is just a big, solid object. They are not shown, they're not modeled, nothing. And if we look at, actually, let's go back. If we look at the floor plan here, you'll see that this is just a big, solid chunk of space. What are we gonna do? If you're interested in having me go through these things in even more detail, you should come join me on Twitch. In conclusion, please, please, please don't build Michael's house. Look at it instead with intrigue and scrutiny, because these two houses together showcase how some game design details can teach us a lot about how the housing commodity market operates, who it works for, really. And compared to the last house we looked at, I wonder which feels like more of a home to you. Any case, instead of another house, let's look at an iconic Los Angeles building and how it's presented to the game versus reality. And I think it's really too bad they didn't take on the challenge of Disney Concert Hall. But instead, let's look at the Getty. Ready?
I think you've seen enough of my driving to know that it's not my forte, so we're going to skip through that part.
The J. Paul Getty Museum was designed by Richard Meyer, who's a renowned Pritzker Prize winning architect and also a serial sexual assaulter, with multiple accusations confirmed across decades of practice. The building itself, in real LA, is a little bit like being on another planet. I highly recommend a visit if you are in town. There's great art, beautiful views, playful forms glistening in sunlight, and winding gardens. And also little known to the public is an architecture archive of incredible importance. The building turns every corner with 16,000 tons of white travertine sourced 15 miles east of Rome. Can you imagine the carbon footprint of that? It's funny that the website of the Getty describes all of the green and technology going on in the building and says it was designed to, that the design is inspired by local LA materials. How well did they model the Getty? Well, I'm less impressed by some of the details as much as I am in love with the kind of building overall. I think it's a fantastic job of shrinking a larger project down into some of its parts and making us feel like we're experiencing something larger than it is. I've been to the Getty many times as a scholar in the archives for some of my postgraduate research, and I do think that they captured a lot of the experience of that here. Making it feel like kind of like a corporate, this feels like a research facility rather than an art museum, which is funny, is obviously the Getty in real life is an art museum. But there is actually a lot of active research going on at the Getty. They captured really well the sweeping views of Los Angeles you get at the top of it in areas like this. But what I would say is that the textures, light, and overall organization of the building make for a great miniature. What I mean is the design of the building in the game is a great fake. It gives you the idea of the Getty while being a much smaller building. It's like a putt-putt course version of the Getty. In Archispeak, we use the term folly to describe any miniaturized version of a larger, typically iconic building. One part that's really hilarious is this staircase, because in fact, you could never ever do this for many reasons. One is because for the vision impaired, there is nothing below you at your feet to tell you that you're going to, if you're using a cane or something, you're going to walk right into this. And this isn't just for people who are blind necessarily, but people who have trouble seeing in general.
Shit, life is good, man. I mean, really.
You're legally not allowed to have an overhang like that. It's very dangerous. And there should be something stopping me or preventing me from walking this way. Because if you're not looking, or say you're looking down at your phone and you're kind of just walking here, boop, you're going to pop your head on that. And that, my friends, is a lawsuit. Where they really lost me, however, is some of these light fixtures. Those and some of these ones down here. Let's see. Oops. Oops. Ooh. Ow. Sorry, I'm just trying to get down here. I hope I'm okay. And some of these light fixtures, they're really not the kind of fixtures you would have on a building like the Getty. In other words, many important pieces of architecture are entirely custom buildings. You'd never tack on a kind of pre-designed product like some of the stuff they're showing here. Like these lights. And... oh! Sorry. And these lights here. Ouch. Sorry, hang on. Sorry, violence. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I was just pointing out the stuff. I'm gonna, quickly take care of this so we can finish the conversation. But, I guess all I was really trying to say is that some of these fixtures, to me, in details, actually kind of, they cheapen all the work they spent on making these sort of sweeping forms. They make the Getty feel a little bit like a 7-Eleven or something weird. Now, to me, the most amazing thing that was executed in the game itself is the urban design of the city. Like, I'll say it again, it's like playing Los Angeles the putt-putt course. There's the hills, the PCH, the industrial areas south of downtown with raised bridges, Compton. I mean, come on. What is executed so beautifully in this game isn't so much as Los Angeles in any particular detail, but how the great architecture critic Rainer Banham said Los Angeles is best experienced by car. The driving through Los Santos feels surreal. The way cars move in this game is like they might in a dream. Constantly moving, there is no traffic backups, but there is a constant hum. I can't believe how much this feels like driving through LA without being a replica or duplicate of LA, but a stylized or cartooned version of it. Now stick around for what I mean by that exactly. One detail that I can't believe made it in is this amazing raised loading dock for a handful of downtown skyscrapers with these tube lights. I actually think this is rather beautiful with the oculus or the holes through the top. In fact, I had an engagement photo taken right about here, which is pretty wild how much this is duplicated. Now, before we continue, I gotta talk about one more building, and it's not what you'd expect. It's actually the boathouse at Sandy Shores. I love this building so much because it reminds me of some of these great LA places like Fry's Electronics or the Brown Derby, or places that you might not know, but places that definitely exemplify LA's quirky visual culture. And these places do influence culture as a whole. For example, have you ever had a Cobb salad? That came from the Brown Derby. That was their signature dish. Or, for example, if you've ever been to an Applebee's or a Chili's, all of those restaurants take on... have you ever wondered why those restaurants are called, like, neighborhood grills, and they're filled with all these weird, quirky, like, bowling pins stapled to the wall and pictures of the Pope and just weird stuff like that? Those restaurants got their model from places like Patrick's Roadhouse. The thing about the boathouse that I love so much is the fact that it is defunct. It kind of fills me with a little bit of melancholy, because as places like Fry's Electronics, go out of business, competing with other things, their investments in the architectural fantasy are what they leave behind for me to desire, and for me to continue and hopefully convince you all that this part of architecture, this responsibility of architecture, is really important and should be considered very valuable. Now, places like Fry's Electronics and the Boathouse at Sandy Shores didn't go out of business because of their investment in architecture. No, in fact, it was due to that investment that these places were able to make such a profound impact on people. In any case, it also has a shape that isn't so unrealistic. In fact, this shape in architecture can be considered quite avant-garde. There's a building that's been built that looks a lot like this that many would consider very, very avant-garde. Can you guess, or do you know it?
Well, I think it looks just like Zaha Hadid's Porthouse in Antwerp.
Anyway, I really love the Boathouse at Sandy Shores for this reason. I wish I could go back and eat at it and enjoy the sunset.
Amazing. Sure.
This concludes the execution segment. Next, let's make a few speculations about what all this might mean. In a way, this game is about models. When I say models, I'm using both definitions of the word. A model, which is a representation of a person or thing or of a proposed structure, typically on a smaller scale than the original. A model airplane, for example. The other definition of model, which is slightly harder to grasp, is a system or thing used as an example to follow or imitate. The floor model at a car dealership, a model citizen, and of course on theme for this video, a supermodel. Architecture, as a body of knowledge, is the paradox contained within these two versions of modeling. The building itself as a practical proposal, and the model it represents to society. These models are often referred to as the practice versus the discipline. Across time, humans have enjoyed making models out of the world around them. One example of these models is the Venus of Willendorf, carved 25,000 years ago. Let me repeat for emphasis, 25,000 years ago. This statue can help us understand the model paradox. It's both the statue itself, a figurine with traits we can quantitatively describe. It has large breasts, full belly, and well-attended hair. Yet, it also contains qualitative information which completes the importance of what the object represents. The figure's cartooned features represent desire, like fertility, fulfillment, or perhaps a self-portrait. In other words, this isn't a carved picture of anybody in particular, maybe, but an idealized version of what life could look like. There's so much we don't actually know about this figure, and even controversy surrounding it, but let's let it stand as just a testament to the time-honored struggle of real and ideal model making. Consider another type of model, the social media influencer. An influencer is someone who's living a model online life. An influencer isn't just a supermodel, but anybody who forms social templates. We use these models to compare our own life to and maybe change the way we live. An influencer might inspire us to eat better, or work out more often, or invest wisely. An influencer might inspire us to avoid going to a certain movie, or boycotting a specific brand. But both the Venus and the influencer propose a real and an ideal, which we can interact with and test ourselves against in whatever way we deem useful. Now, in GTA 5, this Los Angeles, which is called Los Santos, is certainly a model, both a literal 3D model inside of a game and also a structure for behavior. It's like all of LA were a movie set that you can interact with. It's like LA the theme park, which is incredible because LA is already so theme parky. So we can evaluate the buildings in the game as literal models for fun, but we must evaluate GTA 5 as an idealized model. What exactly, then, is it a model of? It isn't actually Los Angeles, right? It's a model of the feeling of the Los Angeles in cinema. It's a stage set of a stage set. A fantastical and wondrous space. which lets me be both the main character and an extra. It's a place where I can live out dark fantasies. Grand Theft Auto 5 changes the way you see the world because this model proposal exists as a way to examine and reflect those fantasies on your own world. This toy exists as a simulation of those fantasies, where I can give myself the thrill of running from the cops without actually running from the cops or endangering anybody.
Maybe it's just me, but in the end, it also felt like a really powerful model of the extreme difficulty and danger to yourself and to others of trying to change or solve systemic issues as an individual. Los Angeles, as a problem, can only be solved with new collective action, and yes, we have models for that which reach beyond purely architectural. Hopefully, we can decide on one before it's too late. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please like, share, and subscribe to get more videos like this. Find me on Patreon or Twitch to join in the fun, and as always, thank you for joining me in the Extra Office.